waiting online. Like that's the thing, Harris staff isn't trained. Yeah, we had the projector. I think it was at that. I think I remember because we. Yeah. It's just we just it was over this time. I guess in the past, like they just took care of it, but this time nobody. During. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming. Campus Council is now in session. I'd like to just give out a few quick reminders. One is please remember to speak clearly into the microphones whenever you are speaking, and also to be respectful and to listen to your peers. With that, if anybody, tonight we do not have a projector as we usually do, so we're going to be doing things a little bit differently, starting with the roll call. The clickers that you all have in front of you, when I call out your name, I'm going to give you a 2-letter code that you are going to put into your clicker. When that's done, I'll let you know that's all you need to do, and then we'll move on. So is everybody ready? Yeah. Administrative Coordinator Hill. Here. President White. Here. VPAA Gelnarova. VPSA Epps. Yeah. Treasurer Steckel. Here. Assistant Treasurer Shake. Here. Ace Chair Welch. Here. Ace Chair Mystic. Here. Services Coordinator Porter. Here. Concerts Chair Jarzina. Here. Diversity and Outreach Coordinator Bogus. Here. Senator Becker. Here. Do you already get your code in? I got my code. Okay. And then Senator Ercolani. Oh, okay. We already got you, Quinn. And then Senator Zimmerman. Senator Zimmerman is not here. Senator Weber. Here. Your code is BD. Great, thank you. And then Senator Farran. Your code is DB. D. All right, thank you. Senator Iyer. Your code is AC. Did we? Okay, it's AC. If you could try one more time, just typing in A and then C. That's okay. And then Senator De Vega. Your code is DC. Senator Nelson. Your code is EB. Senator Logan. Your code is AD. Senator Vale. Yep. Your code is AE. Senator Collinger. Here. Your code is ED. Senator Frimpong. Here. Your code is DE. Senator Romo. Here. Your code is CA. Senator Satchel. Here. Your code is BC. Senator Feldberg Bannatyne. Your code is BE. Senator Tibrewal. Your code is BA. Senator Rebelski.
Present.
Your code is EC. Senator Pierce.
Here.
Your code is CB. And for whoever has the cabinet, it's CD. You are already in. You should have gotten it. Okay. And then Delegate Bulkey. All right, thank you all for your patience with that. It will normally be much faster. We just put them up and you look for yours and then you type it in and then we're done. But with that, we'll be moving on to the second item on the agenda, which is the confirmation vote for Yesenia Ayala as the Judicial Review and Oversight Committee Chair. So President White will be presenting on this.
Hello. So I'm appointing, along with Khalil Misha, Yesenia Ayala to be the chair of the Judicial Review and Oversight Committee. Yesenia is a fourth year from LA. She was the services coordinator for a semester last year and did a really good job with that. So she's very familiar with the interworkings of SGA, but she's not currently involved in SGA. So I think her knowledge of how it works and how it's supposed to be, plus her dedication to the community and just like really strong character overall makes her a really good candidate for the JROC chair. So I urge you all to approve the appointment of Yesenia Ayala to be the JROC chair for this semester. She would be present, but she's at a meeting at this time. If you have any questions, happy to take those, or Misha and Khalil could answer them as well.
Are there any questions? All right, any questions or comments? AC Hill? I see a motion to previous question. Do I see a second? VPSA Epps? All right. And so with that, we'll be moving on to the motion to previous question. For those who may not have been at the senator training, a motion to previous question is simply a motion to stop discussing and to vote on the matter at hand. So this is not actually the vote, but instead a vote on whether or not to vote. Sorry if that's a little bit confusing, but with that, we'll be beginning the vote. This will be done on your clickers, and you will do A for in favor, B for opposed, and C for abstain. You just click them into your clicker once. If you could all just make sure you voted. A is in favor, B opposed, C abstain. Great. And with unanimous approval, Yesenia, we are going to move, sorry about that, we're going to move into the final voting, which is a confirmation of Yesenia Ayala as the Judicial Review and Oversight Chair. So with that, we'll be moving on to the vote, and it will be open once again. So this time, this is your vote on whether or not you want to confirm Yesenia Ayala as the Judicial Review and Oversight Chair. A is in favor, B opposed, C abstain. Oh, sorry, does... So
if you all wanted to discuss this among yourselves, we could step out of the room to have a period of debate before you vote.
If anybody would be in favor of this, if you could just yell out a second.
Point of order, didn't we already motion a previous question on this? So doesn't that mean debate's over?
Yeah, so since we have the people still in the room, the people making the appointment, I'm willing to allow people to continue to discuss if they want to, but I hear no second, so I'm assuming we're going to move forward. So with that, the vote is now open. A is in favor, B opposed, C abstaining on the confirmation of Yesenia Ayala as the JROC chair. We're just waiting on one more vote. If you can all just make sure you've clicked. So we're still waiting on one vote, unless has Cab not pressed abstain yet, or, all right. All right, and that vote passes 18-0. So with that, Yesenia Ayala is confirmed as the chair of the Judicial Review and Oversight Committee. Congratulations. With that, we'll be moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is any public comments, announcements, or additional events. Does anybody have anything they'd like to bring forth to the council? Yes, Council Chair Jarzina.
Hi, I wanted to announce that I'm releasing the lineup for this concert semesters tomorrow at 8 p.m. right outside of the Spencer Grill in what's officially known as the Email Lounge. So that's really, you can pick those up. There'll be those and snacks tomorrow from 8 to 9 p.m. and it'll also be on Facebook after that. You can find it online and stuff. I'm excited. Thanks.
Services Coordinator Porter.
There will be an org fair tomorrow, 11 to 1, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. That is in JRC lobby, or no, the first floor of JRC. I urge you all to go and sign up for some orgs or just talk to people and see what they do. There will be no snacks.
Any further comments, announcements, events? AC Hill.
Exec election applications are open now. They're due February 10th, so I urge you guys all to apply or urge anybody you think is qualified to apply.
Assistant Treasurer Shake.
Bieber Gardner is happening Friday the 16th. It's lit.
VPSA EPS.
There were 266 people who got STI testing on Tuesday, which is really good for the first time.
DOC Bogus.
There are still more Sex Week events happening. Tonight there's a pub quiz at Bob's. Tomorrow from 6 to 8 in Loose Lounge there's a session on cross-cultural consent. And also from 8 to 9 p.m. in 225 there's a session with Isabel Cook, who's a 2016 alum, about how not to have sex. On Friday, Schick is sponsoring an event from 9 to 11 p.m. in Main Lounge about alcohol and consent. And there is a foreplay Gardner from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. So stop by.
Council Chair Jarzina.
I just want to add, the sex workshop is going to be awesome. Isabel did a really amazing session of Our Whole Lives at a church in the community in the last 3 or 4 months with their head pastor, and it was amazing and gave a lot of awesome sex education to students who have abstinence-only education for the most part, which was really important for this community. Grinnell at large benefited from that. So I'm excited that Isabel's coming back and excited to share that news too.
Any
If you
further
didn't know
comments,
already.
announcements, or events? All right, seeing none, we'll be moving on to the next item, which is the approval of the minutes from the previous campus council. And so with that, all right, so with that, we'll just be going straight into the vote on the approval of the minutes. So we're going to open the vote now. So A is to be approve the minutes, B is opposed, C abstain. You can all vote now. With 16 in favor, 1 opposed, and 1 abstaining, that motion passes, and the minutes are approved. With that, we're moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is the confirmation of Riley Murphy, myself as the presiding officer. Would anybody like to present on this? VPSA EPS.
Riley, a dope dude. He did a good job last semester. Y'all should elect him as presiding officer. He does a really good job. Keeps us straight, keeps us moving. He's strict, which is good. I move to vote.
All right. So before we do this, I'm going to take more comments, and then at a certain point, I'll leave the room as well and leave this over so that people can discuss without me here as well. But yes, Senator Rebelski.
Oh, yes.
Last semester, he's done an amazing job, and I have no reason to believe he would not continue to do an amazing job this semester.
Any further comments? All right, with that, I'm just going to dip out for a minute so that you all can do the vote, and I'm going to hand it over to AC Hill.
Okay, are the polls open? Okay. So we're just going to go ahead on voting this. Wise. Motion, previous question. Seconded by VPSA Epps. Sorry, I'm not good at this. Polls are, so we're going to take a vote on the vote. So the polls are open. A for confirmation, B for no, C to abstain. Thank you. All right, that is unanimous. So we're actually going to vote on the confirmation of Riley Murphy right now. Can you open up the polls again, Miles? Okay. A to confirm, B to no, C to abstain. Unanimous. Okay, let's go get him. Okay, up next is the IAC presentation.
Hi, everyone. I'm Zach Steckel. I'm the SGA treasurer, he, him, his. I'm really excited that Campus Council is starting up again. I'm presenting on the results of the Interim Allocation Committee from the past 2 weeks. For those of you who don't know, the Interim Allocation Committee is a committee that meets during the first couple of weeks of every single semester to approve funds for student groups and all campus events and community service before Campus Council actually approves the overall budget. So how it works is each previous semester's Campus Council approves funds to be used in the next semester. This is a relatively new thing. This is only the third semester that we've done it, so we're still working out a couple of the kinks, but things went pretty well these last 2 weeks. Does everyone, or do all the senators have the sheets that were emailed out? No one. Okay. Do people have? Okay, cool. So I'm just going to read out what happened. Sorry, the projector isn't working. So all campus events last semester, we allocated $2,200 to be used for IAC. That one actually went over significantly. We allocated $3,340 for that, but that's okay because we allocated significantly less for all the other subcommittees. So Student Programming Committee, we had allocated $2,500. And then we ended up only using $1,195 from that. And then services was even sadder. We allocated $850, and of that, only $230 was used. So in total, of the $5,500 that was allocated from last semester's Campus Council, $4,765 was approved for use, leaving a remainder of $780, which is pretty good. It was a lot less than the semester previously, which I found interesting. I feel like we don't really have enough data points to figure out exactly what the demand is for Campus Council yet, though. So keep this in mind when you're approving next semester's IAC at the very last Campus Council of this semester. If people like, I can go through the specific line items of exactly what we approved, or we can just leave it at that. Have people received that? Okay, great. So if you've received it now, I suggest that you go through it, and if you have any questions, just send me an email at sgamoney@grinnell.edu. Summer, our SGA president, also co-chaired that committee. She can also take any questions. But otherwise, it was a pretty successful 2 weeks.
Are there any questions? All right, seeing none, we'll be moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is a presentation on the spring budget. Will that be by
me?
All right, Assistant Treasurer Shake.
Thank you. Did people get this in their emails, the Spring 18 budget? It says SGA Spring 18. It should have come out today around 2. If you can pull that up real quick, that'd be great, because I'll be presenting from that. Sorry again that the projector isn't working. So Zach and I prepared this presentation, and why you should pay attention to it is because this is all the money that SGA has allocated for this semester, for its budgetary committees, for Green Fund, for like everything that we do, and you guys will be voting at the end of this presentation. So please focus. Thank you. So how the budget works is like how we get our revenue is that all students pay a student activity fee every year. That's $450 for this year. And 2/3 of that goes towards SGA. So that's for 450 times 15,000, no, not 15,000, 1,530 students, which is an estimate for this semester. We don't have those confirmed numbers, but it should be around that number, times 2/3. And then we divide that by 2. So one for spring semester and one for fall semester. So for this semester, our revenue from the student activity fee is $229,000, and then our reserve plus what we didn't spend last semester rolled over, and that's $83,000. So in total, we have $312,000 for this semester. So fall 17 recap, this is going to be real quick. Our revenue was $229,000 from the student activity fee. And then SGA's endowment, we have $250,000 invested in that, and we get 4% of it every year. So we got $9,800 last semester from the endowment. And our total revenue then was $239,000. Do people understand these numbers? Am I going too fast? Any questions? Good. Okay. And then the total spent last semester was $235,000. So we underspent by $4,000, and that added to our reserve and that brought the reserve up to $83,000. Reasons why we underspent is because last semester we over allocated for wages. Not all the wages that we allocated or budgeted for were spent. So we are looking into that this semester, and we have a significantly less wages budget. And then also funds that were allocated by committee weren't spent. So the budgets that were approved last semester by SBC or ACE, they weren't spent by the people who got the funds. And then people are not like requesting reimbursements for some reason. Like I think they want to, but we don't know why. Yeah, so for ACE this semester, ACE is all campus events. We have $47,000. For concerts, it's $43,000. SPC $31,000. Services $9,000. Green Fund $10,000. DOC has $3,000, and Student Initiative Fund is $2,295. Yeah. So how we came up with these numbers was that last semester and this semester, Zach and I met with all our budgetary shareholders, so SPC, concerts, all of the names that I just said, and basically this was what they requested for this semester, and yeah. And the Student Initiative Fund, that's a constitutional thing, so it's 1% of whatever our revenue is. And then other allocations, we have ACEs this semester. So ACEs used to be under the supervision of SGA until last semester, and now it is under DSA, and it's sort of a service that we're buying, and it has brought down our ACEs costs significantly. It's $16,000 for this semester. And then competitive sports is what we pay for sports like Ultimate Frisbee, and then what was the other one? Water polo, yeah. So that's $8,000. That's a decrease from last semester because we gradually want those expenses to not be paid by SGA and to be covered by sports. And then liberal arts and prison program is $6,150. SHIC, Sexual Health Information Center, is $1,385. This is basically this does not include wages. And then Free Sound has $1,400. VoiceBox is $864, and Xco is $250. Do people have any questions about any of these? Do you guys know what these things are? Free Sound, VoiceBox, Xco? Yeah? No? Okay. All right, so the main thing that SGA spends its most money on are wages. So cabinet wages for this semester would be $3,800. So that's at $9.50, 20 hours a week for 14 weeks. And that's 11 cabinet members, so that adds up to $38,000. This semester, we're going to start paying people who get chosen and elected for the next cabinet. So that's going to be under cabinet training. And it's going to be 7 weeks after spring break at 8:50 for 6 hours a week. And then concerts and free sound workers are getting paid $6,500. That's been allocated for this semester, and that's $9, I think. And I don't have the hours for that right now. Do you know what the hours are? Okay, free sound workers is up to 10, and concerts workers like whatever they work. And then non-cabinet wages, it's a long list. That's a total of $27,500. It includes you guys, senators. So what we have budgeted for this semester is $8 an hour for 6 hours a week. And then it's SHIC employees, class ambassadors, tech advisor, Waltz chair, Green Fund co-chair, poster, block party hosts, presiding officer. And in the presentations, we have all these pay rates and hours per week listed. Yeah, go ahead.
President White.
I remember last semester we were discussing whether or not to continue the Zumba program due to low turnout. So I was wondering if you all talked to the instructor about that and like how you all decided that we should continue to fund it this semester in spite of its low turnout last semester.
Yeah, so that specific portion is provisional. We need to have further discussions with the Zumba instructor right now. We wanted to be able to approve the funds in case we decided that the program was going to continue. And if we decide in a week or two, if that's not going to continue, we will reallocate those funds internally.
Does anyone have?
Senator Robelski.
Motion to previous question.
Are you still on the presentation?
Yeah, it's not over yet.
Yeah. I'm going to let the presentation continue, but then...
Okay. Are people following me on their laptops? Like, are you on the wages thing? Yeah? Okay. So next, we have administrative costs. This is basically cabinet expenditures. We spend some money on senator training and the New York Readership Program, New York Times Readership Program. We have food for administrative meetings, which is when we meet with DSA, President Kington, and Angela Voos. These meetings are usually around our lunch meetings. So we pay for food to get them there, and we divide that cost. So it says $1,500. We pay $1,500, but then we get half of it reimbursed by DSA and the president's office. And the rest is office supplies, miscellaneous, and awards and like stoles for graduating seniors that are SGA members, cabinet members. And right at the end, the budget breakdown. So the total budget for this semester then is $267,447.47. So like $267,000. And then there's like a really nice chart that'll give you percentages and stuff. It's a pie chart. It's pretty cool. I put in nice colors. Yeah. Any questions, comments, concerns? And there's a GIF at the end if you guys can see it.
Senator Collinger, can we get a mic over?
So I was looking at just the budget for the student initiatives, and I know that there were a lot of student initiatives that were passed this semester, and I was just wondering how you guys allocated that amount of money. And personally, for me, I think it just seems very low, but if you could just explain that, that would be great.
So constitutionally, 1% of whatever our revenue is allocated towards stipend. So this is basically what the Constitution has allocated towards it.
If it's determined that there is a significant number of student initiatives that end up like actually being implementable this semester, that I think this body and us internally as SGA cabinet think like really should receive funding from us, we can always sort of like reallocate money internally if we need to. So if we're going to see that like Green Fund isn't going to spend any of its money, but like we really need new television sets, that's something that's been done in the past, is we've taken money from other funds in order to like push up student initiatives at the end. Yes, though historically the student initiative funds don't actually, like that almost $3,000, that doesn't get spent usually, because there are always other barriers besides cost that prevent things from happening.
Senator Ercolani.
So you have in the budget that your reserve goals are $46,000. Assuming we do spend all the budgeted funds for this semester, where will we be in terms of our reserve fund?
We will be exactly at 46,000 if we spend what this entire budget for this semester.
President White.
Yeah, I just wanted to add about the student initiative funding is that sometimes there are initiatives that other departments fund.
Any further questions, comments? All right, seeing none, we'll be moving on to the vote of the for the entire spring budget. With that, the voting is now open. So A is to be approval. What's up? No? Okay. Okay. Thank you. So with that, yes, you can continue to vote. It's still open. A is in approval. B, opposed. C, abstain on the total fall or spring budget. We're looking for just 2 more votes. If everybody could make sure that you're clicking. One note is if it's turned off, you might just have to click the power button and then click. But if we could just make sure you've all voted, we're just looking for 1 more. If you could all just try 1 more time for me, please. A, approve. B, yes.
Mine might have died.
Yours might have died. Can we work that out?
Battery, like the battery side is empty.
Okay. Senator Vail, if you could come talk to the tech advisor really quick. Sorry all for the delay. We'll sure to get back to you as soon as possible. All right, now you can go ahead and vote. Thank you all for your patience, and with that, the vote is concluded, and the spring budget is passed with unanimous approval. Thank you all. With that, we'll be moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is the CSA Chinese New Year Festival budget presentation, which will be, yes. Could you tell us your name, please?
Yeah, my name is Xu Yan Li, and I'm here for CSA's Chinese Student Association, and we plan to hold a Lunar New Year Carnival this year. Like previous year, we will have a Chinese New Year gala for every year. But like this year, we will have some innovation thing. We will have the carnival, which will include some game stations, food stations, and also like cultural stations. Like students from different culture will hold their own station and let people to realize their culture and enjoying their food. From our budget, we are applying for $1,015 $6, and most of the money are for food. Like 900 are all for food from Chang Garden, because China Sea was closed, so it will be a little bit more expensive. And then other 100 are for decoration and also the things needed by the games. And I think this event, because I think this event can also like promote people's understanding about different cultures. So I think it's a very meaningful event, and also people can enjoy games and the food. So I hope it can be approved.
Are there any questions? Yes, Senator Ericolani. Can we get a mic to Senator Ericolani? Thank you.
How much did you say this budget was for again?
1,015.
Okay, because the budget we have received is for 1,337.
Yeah, but it was cut by ACE, and now like what they approved is 1,015.
Okay, so which budget are we voting on approval for? The one that has the revisions by ACE or the ones that we received?
Can we have the ACE chair speak to that?
Yeah. So we're so when we sent the budget, we knew that it was the wrong like amount exactly, but when we sent the email, we said like it's the 1,015 budget. And do you guys need explanations as to why we cut? Would you guys like that? Okay.
Yes.
1 second. So basically, we decided to send 2 of the items on the budget, the first 2, the inkstone and the drawing brush to SPC. We thought that they could possibly like reuse that for their group. And then we also drastically reduced the amount of food. Not drastic. I didn't want to like. We reduced the food by how much? By 200 and something. So we just thought that it would be more appropriate for the event to have a little bit less food. But yeah, any questions?
Further questions? Yes, VPA Gilnerova.
Did you hold the event last year as well?
Pardon?
Did you hold the event last year as well?
Yeah.
And did you run out of food?
Yeah. So that's why we
Yeah.
more food.
Is it possible to reconsider pulling up the number for the food? Because I remember 2 years ago they ran out of food as well. It's a big event and there's a lot of people coming.
Would you like to make a motion to amend?
Yes.
Okay, so I see a motion to amend up to the full amount of $1,336.90. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I see a motion to amend the budget to the total of $1,336.90. Do I see a second? Yes, Delegate Bulky. And so with that, we are now moving into discussion of this amendment. So just so that we all know, discussion at this point is limited only to matters about the amendment itself, not about the main motion. Assistant Treasurer Sheikh.
So question based off that, like how fast did the food like run out? Like how long is the event and how long do you guys have food for?
Usually the event will continue 3 hours, and like we will provide food before the talent show start, so it's will run out like 30 minutes almost. Yeah, like more people come but no food. Yeah.
Any further questions on the amendment? Yes.
Just something to consider is that running out of food is better than having extra food. So.
ACE Co-Chair Welch.
Yeah, is this amendment to include all of the food or to include the drawing brush and inkstone as well?
I believe this. I'm interpreting this amendment as being to be just the amendment that was, or the budget that was sent out to all of the senators in their emails. This amount corresponding to these individual items. Yes, Senator Logan.
Oh, how much would it be to just include the food that didn't get funded?
Would the ACE co-chairs be able to speak to this?
Yep, sorry, I'm doing the math right now.
Thank you.
It would be $1,295.
$1,295 is. But yeah, you follow-up question.
Yeah, then can I motion to change the amount to that?
So we're
Or am I
going
not allowed to do
to
that?
continue on this amendment rather than making an amendment to the amendment.
Okay.
But after this amendment is settled, you can feel free to make another. I'll make sure to go back to you. And up next on my list, I had, could I also see everybody who'd want to make a comment? I'm going to make a quick list since we had a number of people. Okay. All right. Services Coordinator Porter.
Yeah, just on the point of too much food versus too little food, I'd like to say that there is never enough food for this showcase. So I don't think we have to worry about there being too much food. That'll go to waste.
Up next, I had Senator Feldberg-Bannatyne.
I was just wondering if the services coordinator could speak to the likelihood of getting the calligraphy brush and like the inkstone passed through SPC.
Services Coordinator Porter.
That'll be up to committee, but I guess it could. No, well, what organization is it with?
CSA, Chinese Student Association.
Oh.
Actually, we don't really need to worry about it because we ask Chinese department and they say they can provide those things for us.
Perfect.
And then Constitute Chair Jarzina.
Yeah, I was just curious about what's going on at the festival besides the food. If you could speak just what the other events are like, just in terms of like what's like the central, what else does the event offer? You know, I'd be curious to know besides the food. There are some places on campus like Food House. They have like weekly meals with people, but there's always limited quantities of the food they can give. And it's just a matter of working with those limited resources at times. So I'd be curious to know the other ways that your event is like offering something really cool, because I think it probably is.
We plan to have 25 stations totally, and like in the middle of those stations, there will be like people will do some performance here. And for those 25 stations, like each station has either different game like traditional paper cutting and like Chinese traditional clothes performing, and also something like toast. Sorry, I forgot the word. Oh yeah, like something like to how to say, like doing your own dumplings, like those simple games. And also we will provide some prize for those games, maybe some sugar or something like that. And also we will have some stations that run by other students, like they can provide their idea how their station will look like. And also we'll have stations run by other organizations like KGY and like the Korea student, like Japanese student. They will decide their own station, how it's like and what kind of game and what kind of food they will provide.
Well, it sounds awesome. I totally want to go. But besides that, I just think that like there are a lot of times where students here are already paying for food, like in the dining hall, for example. And I think there are other places people get their meals for the night potentially. Therefore, I think your responsibility is mostly at this amazing event and partially maybe to have some food. And if it's limited, that's kind of the way some of these things go. I've just in past examples with big events like this. Like there was a pho bar last year that was like delicious. It was amazing, but you couldn't get the food unless you got there early. It's kind of just limited quantities. So that's, I guess, that's my 2 cents in terms of like, do we want to cut which part of the budget? And I mostly want to see your event happen. Is my main thing.
Senator Logan.
So this is like a cultural event showcase, right? So
Yeah.
is the food aligned with what kind of food is it again? Sorry, I wasn't.
We will have like put food in to different places. Here is also like seems like what we have previous year, like a dinner.
I guess I'm just wondering, so last year one of the things we talked about was funding food that's central to a group's like mission or identity or like furthers the what? What?
That was a services.
No, right. No. I know that. Yeah. I know that was a services rule. I just think that was a good rule that is good to take into account. So like if that if the food you think furthers the event, then I think that's like particularly worth funding. But like if it's just to feed people, you're right, you can get food anywhere on campus.
I mean, like this time we also like our event will continue 2-3 hours, so we will like supply our food 2 times. I mean, like people can enjoy food while they are playing games, so that's our purpose. Yeah.
Are there any further? Yes, VP Galnarova.
What's organized by the Chinese Student Association. I'm sorry if I messed it up. And it's Chinese food that they're going to be serving.
Yeah, that's what I would.
Assistant Treasurer Sheikh.
Motion to limit debate to 2 minutes.
I see a motion to limit debate to 2 minutes. All right. Do I see a second? Yes, I do, from ACE Co-Chair Welch. Yes.
Will this motion limit debate on the entire topic or just the amendment?
This will be on just the amendment. That's how subsidiary. Yeah, just so we all know, each motion is called subsidiary to the one before it, so it needs to be handled. So with this one, we have a motion to limit debate. Another point of information? Yes.
Is this motion amendable or debatable?
It is amendable, not debatable.
Okay. Motion to amend this amendment, or motion to amend the limit of debate to 30 seconds.
Okay, I see a motion to amend the motion to limit the debate to 2 minutes to 30 seconds. Do I see a second? All right, Senator Logan. All right. So with that, we're just going to move on straight to voting on this amendment to it being 30 seconds. So with that, we're going to open up the polls, and you can all vote. A is in favor, B is opposed, C abstain, for a motion to amend the motion limiting the debate to 2 minutes to limiting to 30 seconds. If you can all make sure you voted, please. A, approve, B, opposed, C, abstain. This is a motion to amend the motion limiting the debate from 2 minutes to 30 seconds. We're just looking for one more vote. If you could all please make sure you voted on your clickers. You could all just click one more time for me. Sometimes it doesn't register as well as we'd like. We are still waiting on one. Everyone, please just click one more time your vote, A, B, or C. We got it. And the motion passes 12 in favor to 5 opposed and 1 abstaining. So with that, we're moving on to voting on the limiting of debate to 30 seconds. So with that, we're going to open the polls again, starting in just a moment. Starting right now, so this is A in favor, B opposed, C abstaining on a motion to limit debate on this amendment to 30 seconds. All right. One more, just one more. Sorry this is taking time. Appreciate your patience. All right, so the motion to limit the debate on the amendment passes. So I am now starting a timer for 30 seconds. And from there, we will continue to debate this. So starting now, are there any? Yes, Senator Logan.
Motion to previous questions, we can amend it to like just food, not what they already have funded.
So we have a motion to previous question on the amendment. So Do I see a second? Yes, Senator Vale. All right, and with that, we're going to open up the voting. Voting is now open. A is in favor, B opposed, C abstaining, where for a change to $1,336.90, increase from $1,015.
Point of order. Blah. Point of order. Point
Yes.
of. That's how you say it. Okay, can you just repeat that number?
Yes. So this is a motion to amend from $1,015, increasing it to $1,336.90. Just looking for two more. We're just looking for one more vote. Please make sure you have voted. We're going to wait 10 more seconds and then cut off the one vote as an abstention. All right. So the motion to amend fails with 3 in favor, 14 opposed, and 1 abstention. And so with that, we are back to discussing the budget of $1,015. Senator Logan.
Motion to amend to whatever the number is to fund the food.
Could we get that one more time from the A's co-chairs? It was
$1,295.
That.
$1,295. I see a motion to amend to $1,295. Do I see a second, Senator Weber? And so with that, we'll now move into discussion. Senator Ercolani.
Motion to previous question.
I see a motion to previous question. Do I see a second? Yes, Senator Romo. And with that, we'll be moving on to vote on the amendment to change this to $1,295. That's a change from $1,015 to $1,295. So we're voting on, yeah? Yeah, this is the motion to previous question. This is the motion to vote on this amendment. Yeah, thanks for that clarification. That was unclear. So yes, please vote now. A in favor, B opposed, C abstaining. This is the motion to previous question. So that motion passes unanimously. So with that, we will be voting on the amendment. So polls are now open. You are able to vote now on the amendment to change the CSA Chinese New Year Festival budget from $1,015 to $1,295.
If we approve this, but if we pass this motion, does the budget get approved, or do we still need to vote on the budget overall?
Thank you for that. So if this passes, we are simply passing the amendment. We will still have to vote on that number as the final budget. This is just an amendment to the motion. We're just looking for 2 more votes. If you could all please put your votes in. Now just 1 more. We're just looking for one more vote still. If you could all just make sure you voted. All right. The motion to amend passes with 17 in favor and 1 abstention. So with that, we are back to discussing the main motion, which is now a budget of $1,295. Senator Vail.
Motion to previous question.
I see a motion to previous question from Senator Vail. Do I see a second? Yes, Senator Satchel. All right, and so with that, we're going to move into the motion to previous question. So polls are open. A is in favor, B opposed, C abstain. And with that, we have concluded voting, and the motion for $1,295 for the CSA Chinese New Year Festival has been approved unanimously. Thank you very much. Yeah. Oh, you're right. I'm so sorry, actually. That was just the motion to previous question. We're just deep into these votes. All right. Sorry, one more time. We're actually going now voting on the budget, $1,295 CSA Chinese New Year Festival. Voting is open. Vote. This is the CSA festival budget. $1,295. Waiting on one vote. And the motion passes 16-1-1. All right. Thank you. All right. So with that, we'll be moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is the YDSA trip to the primary debate in Indianola, which is a budget for $310, correct? Yeah. And we have some presentation.
Hi, I'm Abby. I'm a first year, she, her, hers. So basically the plan, there's the first congressional debate going on in the 3rd District. And we want to take 2 vans to take 24 students to go and see it. YDSA hasn't gone to any events yet, and that's something we want to start. We're a new organization on campus.
So, like, there's a progressive candidate running the race that me and Isaac saw speak once, and like it aligns with our group's politics or whatever. So we were excited to like check that out.
He's also a Grinnell grad, and I think I heard that there hasn't been a Grinnell Democrat in the House for like 26 years or something. So this is kind of cool. He also is like super anti-monopolies and has been like getting called out by some like big businesses. Yes. Austin Frerick.
So yes, Senator Rebelski.
2 questions. One, what does YDSA stand for? And secondly, how you choose the students who are going?
Young Democratic Socialists of America, and
So I have anyone, the first priority comes to students in YDSA. All the members plan on going as of now, and then I have other students who are interested who want to see a Grinnell alum speak and debate. And so I believe we can all easily fill the 24 spots.
Senator Ericolani.
Why didn't this budget go to committee?
Yes, Services Coordinator Porter. You have a mic right in front of you.
It came to committee because it's happening before Services Committee. No, actually, it's happening Okay, so they need money for vans, and they have to book those vans in advance. And by the time service committee convenes, they'll only have 2 days until the actual event to book those vans, which is just not very feasible. So that's why it's coming here. I said that it should come to campus council.
Senator Vale. We get a mic to Senator Vale. Yes.
Currently, how many people do you have? You said you had 24 slots. How many do you have filled? Do you have a number?
For YDSA, about a dozen is set, and then, like, you guys know how college kids are. They can be kind of iffy, but I still think we can get the additional 12 people.
Further questions? I saw Assistant Treasurer shake. No? All right, VPSA Epps.
Motion to previous question.
I see a motion to previous question. Do I see a second, Senator Weber? All right, so we'll be open up the voting. So the motion is now open for the motion to previous question. A, approve. B, oppose. C, abstain. It's just the motion to previous question for the YDSA budget. We're looking for 2 more votes. 1 more vote.
Point of order, what are all of your names? Can you just repeat them?
Isaac Milkey.
Do it again. Luke Jansen.
And I'm Abby Furrick.
Thank you.
The motion to previous question passed, and so we'll be moving into the vote for $310 for the YDSA trip to the primary debate. So voting is now open. A, approve. B, oppose. C, abstain. So for $310 for the YDSA trip to the primary debate, we have 15 votes in favor, 1 opposed, and 2 abstaining, so the budget passes. Thank you all. And we'll be moving on to the next item, which is the black and gold ball budget. Yes, President White. Can we get a microphone to President White, please? Thank you.
The representative who is going to come present on this event is unable to attend. Therefore, we will be moving this to committee. From what I understand, it's not time sensitive.
All right. So with that, we'll be moving that off of the agenda, and we'll be moving on to the 11th item, which is the employment eligibility reform. Is there somebody who will be presenting on this? Yes, VPSA Epps.
Okay. So you all should have gotten a PowerPoint. If you would so kindly pull that up. And the first slide reads SGA Eligibility Reform, SGA Executives 2017-2018 with a little SGA sign. And if you put it in PowerPoint mode, it'll twirl around. It's really cool. The next slide says outline. We've got a little dude on a check mark with a computer. And so this is what we're going to talk about, Misha, Summer, and I. Oh, also, I'm the Vice President of Student Affairs for SGA. So we're going to talk about the current eligibility standards, like what currently is there. We're going to talk about the changes that were made last semester to the bylaws, the proposed changes to the actual constitution, the next steps, and then we'll have questions. Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to go over the current eligibility standards. So for senators, that's any student who's a full-time student, has completed at least 1 semester at Grinnell, plans on attending Grinnell College for the whole time they're in office, and is not currently a cabinet member or a member of student staff, like a community advisor. And they also need to live in Grinnell. Those are the current standards laid out in the Constitution for senator. And you'll see that similar standards applied for other positions, such as cabinet officers. So to be one of the vice presidents or president of SGA, you need to be a full-time student, at least a first semester sophomore at the time of assuming office. You need to be in attendance on Grinnell College campus for the whole time you're in office, and you cannot also be a senator or be a Grinnell College student staff. The same standards apply for the Judicial Review and Oversight Committee chair. So last semester, the campus council made some changes to those eligibility standards in the bylaws. So the difference is for the Constitution, making changes in that portion of the text has a higher standard, so it's like a little more difficult to change. So it would any changes to the Constitution need to go to a full campus vote. Changes in the bylaw can be made by campus council approving 2/3. So the changes that happened last semester are as follows. It was adding the phrase "in good conduct standing" to the eligibility requirements for the staff, including the presiding officer. So currently the standards for eligibility of the presiding officer are being a full-time student of Grinnell College, plans on attending Grinnell College for the whole time they're in office, is in good conduct standing, and is not a SGA cabinet officer or senator. For the experimental college, aka EXCO coordinator, they have the same standards there. The election board chair standards is only students at large who are in good conduct standing are eligible for this position. The technical advisor role has no eligibility standards laid out before the reform we made last semester. So currently the only eligibility thing to be technical advisor is that co must be in good conduct standing. So as you can see, that's pretty bare, so keep an eye out for possible reform on that. For the vice presidential and the presidential guidelines, candidates must be Grinnell College students, at least second semester sophomores. They plan on being on campus for the whole time they're in office, are in good conduct standing, and will not concurrently be a community advisor or campus council senator. So the proposed change is to add "in good conduct the phrase "in good conduct standing" to the portions of the Constitution so that they align with the changes we made in the bylaws last semester. I'm going to kick it off to Misha, who's going to tell us more about what this means.
Okay, so
we'll be taking questions at the end.
All right. So we're going to be talking about good conduct standing. So what you see on the left side, so that's an examples when you're not in good conduct standing. And what is on the right, that's conduct warning, which still makes you in good conduct standing. So on the left side, it's more serious violations of the student handbook. And so if you do violate a student handbook, depending on the seriousness of the case, you might either talk to the dean of students when she's going to have a hearing with you, or you're going to go to Judicial Council, which is council made of students, who will decide whether you're responsible or not responsible for the violation of the student handbook that you've made. And if it's really serious, such as the burglary, harassment, harm to others, and so on, you will go in front of the college hearing board, and that is comprised of a staff, faculty, a student, and the dean of students. And then those will, again, determine whether you are found responsible or not responsible. So if you're put in front of, if you're accused of abusing or doing something against the student handbook, you will go to JUDCO or you would go to the college hearing board. But if you're found not responsible, then you are still in good conduct standing. So you will not be charged if you're not guilty.
So the intent of this is to make sure that our leaders have not broken our own community standards, because accessible and responsible SGA leaders are essential to SGA's mission, which is representing and serving the student body. And it's just fundamental to self-governing community and being a leader in that. And in the PowerPoint we include here that 1 in 5 women is a target of sexual assault while in college. So the intent of this is to not have unintended consequences of being harsh on people at all. It's to protect the student body from leaders that are do reprehensible things, basically.
just giving that infographic, I wanted to stress that a new study actually recently found it was closer to 1 in 4.
Thank you so much for sharing that information. Yeah. And not that this measure will like necessarily reduce that, but like we absolutely don't want to be putting like people who have done sexual assault on a pedestal at all. And currently, because there are no standards around this in the Constitution, we cannot impeach someone or fire someone who has done anything of that nature because we wouldn't know about it because there's just no reason we would know because it's their confidential information. But if this were to be one of our standards, then we would find out and it would be addressed. So Misha can talk more about how like the process of this would work. So we're on the slide that says process.
Yeah, sorry, one more thing. So like everything goes to JUDCO or CBH, except for everything that's related to Title IX, because then is that handled through Title IX office. But like then again, like if you are found responsible, then you're not going to be good conduct standing. But that's the only exception when you don't go through JUDCO or through CBH. All right. So process. So it would go through Dean of Students, Sarah Motion-Ross, who is in charge of JUDCO, in charge of College Hearing Board. And she has all the records on like all the students. It's completely confidential, so like none of us on the SJ cabinet or no one else on the college can know anything about your record. So she is the only person who's actually able to check it. So when there would be people running for a position, we would send it to her and she would just like run it through the records, seeing who might be in that good conduct standing and therefore not qualified to even run.
No, so we wouldn't send it to her. She would get the form or whatever way people would submit their applications. She'd get those applications and she'd cipher out the people who were not in good conduct standing, and then we'd get the ones who were in good conduct standing. So the idea is that students, no matter like where you are in leadership on campus or whatnot, cannot know people's private information of whether they're in good conduct standing or not. So we wouldn't know about the people who applied who were not in good conduct standing, which is all has to do with like privacy laws, students' rights, and things like that.
Yeah, I would like to add that if this standard is passed, people who are not in good conduct standing probably won't be applying because they're going to know that they're not eligible. So that is one thing. But also this would impact people who, like if something were to happen when someone's in the middle of their term or something like that. So being like on not good conduct standing lasts for 1 semester unless some kind of other infraction comes up along that time. And it would take effect immediately. Khalil, do you want to talk about next steps?
Motion to move to debate. Motion to previous question. Vote. Pass all campus election opens tonight. Should I read all that?
I mean, I can just explain it if you want, but yeah.
Oh, okay. So the reason we want to bring this and get this passed today is so that when the people that will take the 3 of us positions next year, when they are being voted in, they have to go through this process so that people who will be in our jobs next year will be in good conduct standing. So that like so if it gets passed today, then tomorrow we'll open it to the whole student body so that it'll be in the actual Constitution, which has like the more specific rules for the SGA execs.
Yeah. So if this passes, we would have an all-campus election tonight in which we would need at least 20% of the student body to vote. And of those people who vote, 2/3 of them would need to pass it in order for this to actually change the Constitution. If this fails at campus council, that is the end of it for this semester unless someone else wanted to bring it forward at another time.
All right, so if you could all just leave your hands up really quick, I'm going to take down a quick list so that we make sure nobody is left off. All right, so we just got that whole corner there, so down to Logan. All right, thank you all. We'll start with Senator Romo.
I just want to ask why we can't wait to pass it at like another campus council, say like next campus council.
So you can, we could do that, but we would prefer to vote on this now because the forms for people running are due before the next campus council.
All right, Assistant Treasurer Shake.
So it says there's an all-campus election open tonight, and then you said that we would have campus council vote on it. What's the difference?
So campus council, so you all were in the debate portion right now. If there's a motion to previous question and that motion passes, there will be a vote. If campus council approves, then there will be an all-campus election. Did that clarify? Okay, thanks.
Senator Weber, we get a mic.
So you mentioned we have nothing in place for impeachment of people who have violated what we now consider in good conduct standing. I was wondering why we're not focusing more on that instead of on the current proposition. What are the benefits of what you're proposing now versus focusing more on an impeachment process?
I don't know how to put this in a way that makes ethical sense, but I'm going to say what I'm going to say. So essentially, as we're doing our jobs, the things that would make sense for us to get impeached are if we misuse our positions. But technically, if you're in bad conduct standing, it's not misusing your position. It's like let's say you have a job right back home, you work at Dairy Queen or whatever, and you you break in at night because you know the codes. Now that's not. Oh no, that is misusing because you know the codes. But let's say you have a job somewhere and you do something bad when you're not on the job on the clock. So the job can technically fire you, but that's different rules too. Damn, there's no example that makes sense. But essentially, if you are on bad conduct standing, you're not doing something bad that's like while you're working. So ethically, it doesn't make sense to do it in that way.
Yeah, I would like to add that you could do something bad while you're working, and I would encourage people to revisit the impeachment procedures if you want to. That's something I think we're absolutely open to, but this is just what we're considering now because it would stop people proactively rather than waiting to find out later.
Up next was Senator De Vega.
Yeah, I have one brief question about how would the criteria under what is good conduct standing, who determined that, as well as the stipulation about drugs, does that include all schedules of drugs as classified by the DEA, and under what conduct violations, so one with Grinnell Police Department or campus security or what? If you could just elaborate on that would be great.
Yeah, so the definition is in the student handbook, which I think every student should know or have read through, which is kind of the expectation so that you don't break the rules and don't get in trouble. So that's defined there. And then with the drugs, it includes all the drugs. Also just because of the, but there's medicaments, no? What do you mean?
So anything is not non-prescription or over-the-counter. So if you don't have a doctor's note or you can't get it in a Rite Aid or CVS or the place up the street, it's probably going to count as a legal drug.
Just for reference, could you point us to the point in the student handbook, the section where these terms are defined? Because I'm having a hard time finding them. Thank you.
Assuming that's going to take a minute, we're going to keep on moving along, and then we'll make sure to announce that out once it's gotten. So.
Yeah, sorry. So the second part of the question, so it's for all the drugs, and then the person who decides if you're in good conduct standing or the institution, so it's our school. So if you are caught within our school and then you're found responsible within our school, then you are not in good conduct standing. If it goes through the legal way, then that's your problem outside. But I don't think that that's really good for you in a way.
Up next is Senator Eric Watty.
I have a couple of things. First, just to clarify for everyone here, we do have a way to impeach cabinet officers and appointed cabinet members. That it does exist within the handbook. It doesn't apply automatically for good conduct standing, but I think it's by petition of 200 students and vote by 2/3 of campus council, and then or vote by 2/3 of campus council following a campus-wide referendum. We can do that if the case arises. Second of all, really quickly, let me pull this up. So I am somewhat worried that we would be having the student government officers screened by the administration before they take office. I mean, that kind of calls into question our independence as a legislative body and as a body that has a nearly $500,000 budget every year to do with what we see to, further the mission of the college and protect its students, as well as the fact that in my communications with people after I made a Facebook post the other night asking for student input, a couple of people came forward and shared that they were somewhat worried. Let me pull up one specific email that I received that obviously this person wrote that they wouldn't want someone with a morally dubious history of disciplinary behavior to represent the student body. However, they hope that ultimately this kind of judgment of a candidate's character would be left for the students to make. And I mean, this seems like a fundamental mistrust of the students who vote for these people. Also, why do we need this in the Constitution if it's already in the bylaws? Like, what extra purpose does that serve? It's already in a governing document, and I understand that the Constitution is harder to change than the bylaws, but is this just for redundancy's sake, or to make the point clear that we don't want people in violation of the college's conduct policy as student government officials, or is this for any other reason?
So first of all, I believe you are all going to get an email on the specific policy, the alcohol and other drugs policy. It is in the handbook. You're going to get that email soon, first of all, and then, yeah.
The email we're getting is the response to what it means, like the definition of good conduct standing, or just drugs and alcohol?
I'll read it. You just got it. I just sent it. So I don't know what page it's on because it's on the internet. It says alcohol and other drugs policy, and the second paragraph, the college takes a position of serious concern about and opposition to the misuse of alcohol beverages and use of other drugs, including misuse of prescription drugs in the college community. Now, if I were an attorney, I would assume, because it's strong language, that when they say drugs, they mean things, obviously, because they say misuse of prescription drugs. So if you misuse prescription drugs, then it's wrong, but then anything that's not a prescription drug, obviously that's wrong too by this wording. Now, it might not specifically give you marijuana or PCP or whatever else y'all be doing, but if you assume, then you get what y'all are asking for the specific wording in the paragraph.
Point of information. Can you guys still try to find somewhere in the handbook where like good conduct standing, those 3 words are defined? Because I remember last campus council, and hopefully I'll speak to this when it comes to me, like we had a hard time finding that definition so that students could also find that for themselves.
Point of information. Good conduct standing appears nowhere in the student handbook.
But first of all, I'm going to give any of them a chance to respond to Senator Eric Lalani's questions and remarks. Yes, President White.
Yeah, thanks. So just to clarify on the impeachment, yes, I confirm that there are methods of impeaching, but none that are specifically involving conduct. As Khalil mentioned earlier, they're tied to like the performance of the job or completing the duties outlined in the Constitution. Second, I wanted to speak to the point of like someone from the administration screening candidates. I also felt kind of weird about that, but we've talked about it with Sarah and Chineri, who's the ombudsperson, who's very neutral, and the student employment director, Mark Watts. And it seems like it's a pretty objective process, and it's also what we have. So, like, yes, there could be bias in that system, and I would never know because I am not her. But, like, that is the system that is in place. So it's just a matter of, like, having nothing or having that is what it seems to be for me. I absolutely trust the student body to vote for qualified candidates. They haven't let me down. So please don't interpret as if like I don't trust the student body. I absolutely do. Though students wouldn't know if someone was on bad conduct standing because that is confidential information. So they wouldn't have adequate information to make a decision to impeach someone if they didn't know about their conduct record. And lastly, I think it's important to include this in the Constitution so it's consistent with the bylaws. Otherwise, it'll be confusing and difficult to interpret.
Okay, I'm going to continue to move down the list. So Senator Farran.
Yeah, firstly, I want to know, like, where did this policy come into place from? As in, like, we didn't have this policy before, so, like, what led to the administration deciding that they wanted to, like, put this in place? Do you want me to move on to the next question, or?
You can ask multiple
secondly,
questions. Try to get
if
them all.
someone, for instance, the examples include, like, someone who's been, I don't know, accused of sexual harassment, but, like, it wasn't clear to me whether it's someone who's been accused or someone who's guilty. So who makes that distinction? And, like, people who are accused, are they considered to be in bad conduct standing as well? And thirdly, I would just like to propose that if the administration is deciding that someone who's going to be on the SGA is in bad conduct standing, is there no way that, like, the student body or, like, someone from the representative of the student body of, like, the JROC committee be a part of the decision-making process?
PPSA EPS?
For the first one, the administration did not bring this forward. We as execs have learned that previous execs, before any of us were here, have either been Title IX abusers or sexual assaulters, have done things that are really bad, like taking a whole bunch of money from SGA. Like, these are things that people in these positions have done in the past, and there was nothing in the Constitution that, like, they could be made to step down or be taken off their position. So, like, that's the reason. But this had nothing to do with administration. We actually were in a meeting, we're like, hey, we're gonna do this. So it had nothing to do with them. Like, they're not even spearheading it. Nothing. It's just all us. So me, Summer, Misha, and, like, members of the cabinet that agree with it.
But the administration is deciding the bad conduct. Like who's in bad conduct?
Misha can speak to this in JUDCO and how there's student involvement.
So it's JUDCO, the body that's comprised of 3 students, or the CHB, which is a body comprised of 1 faculty, 1 staff, 1 student, and the dean of students. Those are the people who decide whether you are responsible or not responsible. If you're found responsible and it is a very serious abuse of the student handbook, then you might be put into the section of bad conduct standing. And so it's always a student on the board who decides as well if the student is found responsible or not responsible. And as for the Title IX, I think I mentioned before, you can be accused of anything and go to JUDCO or CHB or Title IX, and if you're found not responsible, then you're not in no good conduct standing, in bad conduct standing. If you're found innocent, you're never gonna be put in bad conduct standing just for being, I don't know, like on the board.
Point of order. Just that we don't use innocent and guilty because it's not a legal thing. It's responsible and not responsible.
I can answer one of the questions about where it's at in the. So they do explain what good conduct standing is. Eligibility for safety-related student employment. A student who is in a conduct probation at the time of application for a safety-related role, or who is placed on conduct probation at any time student holds a safety-related role, does not hold good conduct status. So there's your definition.
Senator Collinger.
So I just had a question about, you guys talked about the conduct warnings, and I just wanted to ask, are there like 3 strikes for warnings, or is it just like you commit multiple like warnings and yeah?
Yeah, so if you're found responsible several times, then the outcomes might be more serious. So if you have like a minor abuse but it's repeated, and like you go to different like other educational kind of suggestions that the committee gives you and still doesn't prevent you from abusing the student handbook, then there might be a more serious outcome if it's a series of abuses of the student handbook.
Is it a certain amount of small minor abuses?
No, it depends case to case.
Yeah, so I want to add that like one example is violating quiet hours. Like that's not something that would put you in bad conduct standing. Yeah. But if you're consistently violating quiet hours, the punishment for that might increase over time. If it's something like an like alcohol violation. First time, like you go to basics, you're not going to be in bad conduct standing. But if it's a repeated issue, then that's a situation where your punishment probably wouldn't get more severe because maybe you have a problem with that, and like it's more about like personal development, like something that you need to do for yourself, and you just need help. So you're not going to get punished worse in a situation like that.
Senator Logan.
Okay. I feel like just to like hop back to last semester, I voted yes to add good conduct standing to the bylaws because my initial thought was really in line with what's been brought today, that like I don't want a rapist on SGA. I don't want an abuser in SGA. I think that makes it unsafe and inaccessible to people. But as people have come to me, like in person, in a Google form I sent out, over email, I've realized that the language good conduct standing doesn't necessarily achieve that goal. What it does is it achieves the goal of keeping people that through the school's like determination, conduct process, whatever, have said that they are not that they are not abusers or that they are abusers. And I think that there are plenty of people on this campus that are in good conduct standing that shouldn't be. And there are a lot of people that are in bad conduct standing that I would be happy to be on SGA. I think that any time we put administration between students and SGA, we should be very, very serious about our language and about our process. The fact that this hasn't been really worked through on reform committee is a bit disappointing to me, or even just like worked through in general. I don't know when people started thinking about this idea, but had it been talked through at the beginning of the year, we talk about, hey, we have this mutual goal of not wanting certain people on SGA. How do we get to that? I don't think, and like with all due respect to what President White said about how we either have this good conduct standing process or we don't, I think that's like a false choice. I think that we're all really smart, creative people, and if the administration wants to work with us to find language and a system that we agree where we can check ourselves and be accountable for who's on SGA, but also respect the confidentiality of like the processes, I think we can come to that, but it takes work, and I don't think it'll get done tonight. What else was I gonna say? I think that's where I'm at for now. I also, like looking at what was sent to us about like what Khalil just sent on good conduct standing, all it says is that you're not on good conduct standing if you're like not on conduct probate. Like it's just more jargony terms to me. And it's when you get into that like gray area of, is this good conduct standing or is that, like if there's not a clear written out thing, like systems, institutions don't favor certain people. You know, when you have 2 or 3 people making decisions, like certain people are disproportionately affected, and I think that if we're gonna take that risk of keeping certain people from SGA, we have to be very accountable for the fact that that could be on us.
Services Coordinator Porter.
Doesn't work. Yeah, so I think something to keep in mind in all of this as well is the argument that, just wanted to point out that if someone does have a repeated violation of, for example, an alcohol policy, they might get help and they might not be punished, but also there's no telling what JUDCO will do and what kind of punishment they'll dole out. Situations vary, and perception and bias can get in the way, and so I wouldn't make it a sure bet that JUDCO always acts in the most just and compassionate way.
Senator Robelski.
I have 2 concerns. The first was for good conduct standing. If you're accused of like a Title IX violation, I've heard that you're immediately no longer in good conduct. Is that or is that not true? And secondly, the college very clearly makes it very clear that it is not a legal decision when they find people responsible or not responsible of something. And so I just worry about the potential legal implications of forbidding somebody from a job when they have, legally speaking, done nothing, just as a liability issue to SGA.
But then that is happening if you wanted to work for campus security, like that's already in place. So like you are applying to some part of, like some jobs on campus, but not to others. So I'm not sure where the logic is over there. And then with the Title IX, I am not connected with the Title IX. I do everything that is like on the other side with JUTCO and CHB. So I can speak of that, but I would assume that like until you're found responsible or not responsible, there cannot be any judgment made. Just because all of the bodies have the presumption of innocence. I'm not sure how you call that. Like before you're proved responsible or not responsible.
So you are in good conduct until found responsible?
I believe so, but I can check on that and get back to you.
Thank you.
Senator Nelson?
I'd like to reiterate Senator Logan's point, just saying that any vague exclusionary rules have never been good for anyone but the class of the oppressors. In this case being the administration who has the power to decide whether or not someone fits in good conduct standing. I note that on the PowerPoint it says examples of not on good conduct standing and not the definition of not on good conduct standing, and I think that leaves far too much leniency to a government that is governing our government where we should be the people governing our government. Additionally, I'd like to make a point about sexual assault. On these examples, there's a point about retaliation as well as that of drugs. And retaliation has been defined in sexual assault as naming an assailant or even just like mentioning them to the wrong person could mark you as a retaliator. And I don't think that that's an appropriate way to deal with survivors of sexual assault. Additionally, drugs and alcohol tend to be coping mechanisms that survivors handle. And so I don't see this as the most effective way to protect survivors if that's going to be a main point of defense for this.
Senator Feldberg-Bannatyne?
I think my sentiments that I wanted to share have been said. Thank you.
Yes, in the back. Vincent, can we get a mic back?
Awesome. Hey, everybody. I just want to make a quick point. Just to reiterate, I'm in agreement with Senator Logan on a lot of this. It seems that what would be more appropriate would be a more narrow definition of good conduct standing that only relates to Title IX. For example, if the chief concern is not having people who have committed sexual assault or other forms of sexual violence on it, which has been reiterated through every single example, why not just have a narrow definition of good conduct standing that is just connected to Title IX, first of all. Second of all, for campus, I'm a co-director of ACES Student Safety, and the only adjudicating process that we put students through before we hire them is Title IX, and we affirm to a more narrow definition of that precisely because of the biases and institutional oversight that comes with some of these other forms. I've had friends who have been fucked over by our drug policy and that kind of thing, and I don't really want it anywhere near this. Also, with the recent campus trend for treating like forms of activism and that kind of thing, the fact that vandalism is on there makes me very uncomfortable because you can use a very wide application of vandalism to keep someone who could be a little bit more out and about their activism from student council. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility with the way the administration's been handling our free speech decisions on this campus, so I'd just like to have that reiterated. I think you should consider a more narrow definition based on Title IX adjudication only, if you want to put this in there. But
BPSA EPS?
Vincent, not to be rude, but you actually didn't take that out when you guys were hiring, because like Sarah Motion Ross gives y'all who's okay. So did you say that you did take it out?
Our main process that we look at is we have people under good conduct standing for Title IX. Even if I may have spoke too abruptly about that, I can go check. My more general point stands that I think there is a more narrow way of doing this, which is to go specifically through Title IX and strike some of the other definitions or additives for good conduct standing that are currently on the record.
Thank you.
Up next, I have Senator Vail.
I think the clearest thing that ambiguity is anathema for something like this, and it's unacceptable to have any ambiguity with something that's deciding student government. But the process of making sure that we don't have abusers on SGA or in SGA positions is like valid and very important, but it needs to be codified. So when people get into the situation, they know, okay, these are the recs. We can figure out what is what and not have it sort of up in the air, because ambiguity is bad. It's bad. And by actually defining what good conduct standing is beforehand, making it clear and accessible to all the students so they know what's up what, and also having like a strikes policy for like more smaller infractions of sort of the student handbook, and making it defined and accessible. If that's a part of it, it needs to be defined, it needs to be codified, it needs to be unambiguous. But also I'd like to say to the process, it looks like actually that the Dean of Students doesn't make any determination on if someone is good conduct standing. It's like saying, yes, this person is, and that determination of good conduct standing has made by committee. Is that correct?
I mean, the committee decides whether you're responsible or not responsible, and depending on the severity of the act, you might be, and you're found responsible, then you can be put in bad conduct standing.
But it's not the decision of the dean. Okay.
It's the decision of the committee.
Okay.
Next, we have Conscious Chair Jarzina.
Yeah, I just want to say, well, that's loud. Thanks for sharing, everyone who's shared so far. And I think I'm definitely glad to hear that you guys have things to say about it. And considering that this is something on our mind, I would appreciate it if we could have had more of a community-based conversation about this. Just because I think it's important for us to trust each other as people who are figuring out things like this. And I remember when my friend was working on a mental health work project on campus, people were expressing their frustration with the lack of mental health resources available, and her argument was we need to support each other more in ways of providing peer mediation and counseling. And I see this as definitely an example of a kind of, not a rift in our community, but a possible for growth in terms of how we're looking at other groups for accountability. Especially, I know certain groups are really good at just keeping each other, checking up on each other. So I don't know. That doesn't provide a clear direction for policy, but I think that's an important part of the larger Grinnell side.
Okay, Treasurer Steckel. Can we get a mic to Treasurer Steckel, please? Yeah. I think also after this, if I could see anybody who wants to speak on the topic who has not spoken about it before, and I'll take those for, yes. Yeah, you can feel free to jump in. Uh-huh. Okay, yeah. Do you want to respond before moving on to Treasurer Steckel? You can go ahead and respond now, yeah.
This is something I've been thinking about for quite some time, and I have worked on it. Also, Khalil mentioned that previous cabinet members have had to deal with this. This is something I've also had to deal with this semester, but not with an executive, but other individuals in SGA, and it's really awkward because the current setup has not allowed me to take any substantial action on it. So I have worked on this. Also, I mentioned that I met with Chineri, who's the ombuds person, Mark Watts, who's the director of student employment, Sarah Motion-Ross, the dean of the college, and Andrea Connor, who's the associate vice president of student affairs. And I'm very open to other approaches on this, and I'd like us to wrap up the conversation sooner than later so that we can have ideas that are ready before February 10th if possible, because that will impact the next term. So if you all don't think this is the best way, I don't know that it's the best way, this is just one thing that we're putting out there. I'm really open to exploring other avenues. I don't see any right now. But I'm happy to hear others' ideas. This is also a standard for community advisors, and administrators were really surprised that this isn't already a standard for SGA. And the definition of good conduct standing is intentionally ambiguous. So sometimes ambiguity can be bad, but often it's really good practice to have some ambiguity in policy to allow for flexibility in the decision makers and implementers at the time. For example, the Constitution has an elastic clause exactly for this purpose. And I'm also uncomfortable with the idea of making this specific just to Title IX, because there are other conduct standing not on good conduct standing behaviors, I'll say, that I also wouldn't want a leader of SGA to have been found responsible for, because they also would create an unsafe environment that's not accessible to all students, for example, threats of violence or violence itself.
Would the VPSA or VPAA like to add any further comments before moving on?
Yeah, just very shortly, there's going to be the application to be on JUTCO at the end of the year, and if you want to see what's going on at the college and be one of the members of the committee, I highly suggest that you do that, and then the things that you're going to see, you might be surprised.
All right. Now moving on to Treasurer Steckel.
Yeah, I think I just want to say that my understanding of the issue from talking about this last semester for weeks all the way up to this is that no one seems to have any ideas for another option, primarily because the Title IX like conduct standing, from my understanding, cannot be separated from other issues of conduct standing in order to protect confidentiality of all students. So there has to be this like barrier between when we know what actually something was, when something happened, and what any students who are hiring other students know what happened, if that makes sense. Like we can't be told why someone is in bad conduct standing. All we can be told is that someone is in bad conduct standing, and we have no input on what that is, which I would understand makes people squeamish. And I get that there are problems with us not being able to determine our own sort of like hiring and firing practices in that way, but also legally we can't as students know really exactly what like people have done, especially in sort of like Title IX situations. And so like I would love to like have more conversations about this and talk about it, but where I'm at right now is that this is the only way to prevent abusers from being in these positions of power. And that you have to use the broad stroke.
And next, Candace, saw your hand. Can we pass a mic? There's one coming at you from your left.
I just wanted to respond to what President White said about how ambiguity could be a good thing, especially in light of multiple people giving you examples of why that's bad, especially since a part or included in not being in good conduct standing also applies to like non-violent, non-threatening things. Like, well, I'm not going to get into that, but I still, based on granted, I wasn't here last semester hearing the other conversation, so maybe there were some points that were brought up that would seem to, I guess, legitimize why this type of clause should be included. But considering that there are many abusers who are not documented as abusers who can still get on to any type of student organization like this, it's not going to be protecting us from that. So I just want to, and Senator Logan already brought that up, but I think that needs to be heavily stressed, that just because we have these type of institutions to protect us doesn't mean they're always going to, because it's so dependent on victims coming forward or that other things. So yeah, I just want to further stress that.
Are there any further, is there anybody else who would like to speak on the matter who has not spoken before? All right, then President White. Can we get a microphone back to President White, please?
Thank you. Yeah, so I've heard a solid amount of like, what's it called? Like sweeping information or claims like always or never, and like this is not a one size, this is going to solve your problems situation, but I think this is a thing we can do.
All right, so we're going to go back through people who have already spoken before. First person on my list was Assistant Treasurer Shake.
Okay, what I was curious about was why couldn't Shaneri do this? And secondly, So like people like there are students in JUDCO, right? And they, and they're aware of the like confidential stuff like Title IX and like whatever, like, no?
I can respond. Yeah, so Chineri could, but we, in conversation, thought that it made more sense for Sarah too, since she, like, that is her job. Like, that is what she does at this college. So, whereas Chineri does lots of other things too, so it just better aligned with Sarah's role at the college. And in terms of the JUDCO piece, the students who are on JUDCO know the situation that is presented before them, but they don't have access to the full conduct record like Sarah does though. So for like she often tries to like or will go forward with the recommendation that JUDCO has unless there's something in conduct history that suggests something different.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people are against like, or like that's my perception of it at least, that people don't want Sarah Motionross or someone who's like within the administration making decisions for student government. And then like that point where like with administration was surprised that this isn't already in space for like SGA when it's like 4 CAs. Like the administration hires CAs, like SGA hires SGA. So I think like Chineri's neutral, like she doesn't have any affiliations with any group, so I think it makes much more sense for her to do it, and like if we can ask her to do it and if she's down for it, I think that's like a really that I feel like that would be a better solution than Sarah Motionross.
Up next, I have Senator Logan. Microphone to Senator Logan, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to. It's a little bit frustrating to when Treasurer Steckel, you said that we haven't been able to come up with anything better, because the first time I think 18 people in campus council heard that good conduct standing would be coming as a reform was at the very last campus council last semester. I have no other way to describe it, but like very beautiful what the concerts chair said, in that if we can look at this as an opportunity to think like how can we model self-governance to not just rely on like, oh, we have this one resource where we can like weed out people we don't want, but it's not actually that great because, you know, a lot of people don't trust that systems will actually work for them or like have justice for people that look like them, et cetera, et cetera. How can we model self-governance to figure out a way within our community to make sure that people like don't join SGA that makes it unsafe? I think that this conversation is definitely getting a little bit long, and I think that, like I said, like a lot of us hadn't heard that we were going to try to address good conduct standing until the very end of the last semester. I don't want to like cut off anybody else that is interested in speaking. I would soon suggest that we motion to postpone indefinitely until Reform Committee gets up and running, and then we can discuss like what are the different ways we can do it. Like, could someone appeal if Sarah didn't let them apply? Like I think there are a lot of different creative ways we could do this, but like also we have like the rest of the agenda. So, yeah.
So I see a motion to postpone.
Well, I don't want a motion to postpone because I think that there are people that still want to speak, but like I'm putting that in the air.
Yes.
Yes.
I want to make sure that it's clear. Does the dean of students actually like make a decision when finding out like good or bad conduct standing, or is it just confirming what's on the record?
She confirms what's on the record. You cannot get into bad conduct standing unless you go to JUDCO or you go to CHB. And there, the student and the CHB, where you have the faculty and the staff and everything else, those are the bodies that determine whether you're responsible or not responsible.
Point of order.
So if you're found not responsible by the body, she cannot put you in bad conduct standing. It will be the body that will decide.
Does she put you in bad conduct standing, or do the committees?
If you're found responsible, and it is
okay,
a serious, you do something, serious violation, and the committee finds that it is so serious that you should be in bad conduct setting, and they decide on that, then that's going to go into your record, which Sarah will manually put it in there.
Point of order. Like, just really to clarify, because I don't so something goes to these committees, and then once they say you are guilty of or responsible for a certain offense, like, then the dean says good or bad conduct standing. Like
the committee decides on the outcome. The committee decides
on
the
good or
outcome.
bad so the
Yeah.
dean does not put people in good and bad conduct standing.
I mean, she's the one who has to put it into the record, because like she has like the access.
Just like literally putting it into the record,
Yes.
not like deciding
Yeah, because like, the
what.
students cannot do that. Like she's the person who puts that on there, but it's the committee that decides.
Okay.
She just like physically puts it on the record or types it into the record.
Yes.
Okay.
Up next, I have Senator Eric Watty.
So, I know this point has been belabored. I want to be absolutely clear. Sarah Motion Ross and no one in the administration has the authority to change the decision that is rendered by College Hearing Board and JUDCO.
No, she sits there on the committee, and she is bound by what the committee decides. That's why the committee is in there. Otherwise, she could decide in her office without anyone. But that is protected by the fact that you have to go to the committee, and the committee makes the decision.
Okay. And to make my second point, I mean, I think at this point, as Senator Logan said, we're going in circles, and many of the relevant points and objections to this piece have been made, and I motion to postpone indefinitely.
All right, I see a motion to postpone indefinitely by Senator Eric Watty. Do I see a second from Senator Weber? With that, we are able to discuss this matter just so that everybody is clear. A motion to postpone indefinitely means that we will stop discussion of this matter. We will not continue on to a vote, and it is free to be brought up at any future campus councils, but not anymore tonight. President White.
Yeah, I appreciate all the conversation tonight, and I just want to urge you all to reflect on the implications of the decisions you make, insofar as if nothing is done tonight, then nothing will be done for the next full academic year for the executives.
Senator Rebelski. You're also next on the list, so you can just continue after you.
All right. The point of information is just we talked about how this could be used to impeach future members of the student government. So if we did pass it even after the nominations have been submitted and voted on, this still could happen, right? We could still say you've been found guilty or you've been found responsible for whatever such and such offense. We can begin impeachment procedures.
You could, though you wouldn't have access to that information.
Okay.
In terms of the conduct record. You would not have access to that.
And then motion to previous question.
Okay, I see a motion to previous question. Do I see a second? Yes, EPSA EPS. So this is we're going to now vote on whether to, this is the motion to previous question before the motion to postpone indefinitely. So the polls are now open, and senators, you can vote A to approve, B to oppose, C to abstain, the motion to previous question. So with 6 in favor, 9 opposed, and 3 abstaining, we will continue on with our discussion of the matter. So up next on my list, I had Senator Vail.
Point of order.
Yeah.
So we're only allowed to discuss the moving of this to
This is only, we are now only discussing whether or not to postpone. So we are now discussing the motion to postpone. No longer are we making comments about the actual employment eligibility reform. All right. Yes, Senator Logan. Microphone, please.
Yeah, on the motion to postpone, it's a little bit, again, frustrating to hear things like, think about like the implications of your actions if you don't pass this. When there was a whole semester that the implication of your guys' actions, like if it had come earlier, we could have gotten this done. So it's unfair, I think, to put this on us and make it seem like if we don't like vote right now, that we're the ones that are going to let people on SGA that are in bad conduct standing. Can I motion to previous question now?
Yes, you can.
Motion to previous question.
All right, I see another motion to previous question by Senator Logan. And do I see a second by Senator Ercolani? So with that, we're going to open up the polls. And this is once again a motion to previous question. This requires a 2/3 majority in order to pass. We're just waiting on one more vote. If everybody could make sure you voted. So the motion to previous question passes 17-1. So we will now be moving on to vote on a motion to postpone indefinitely. So with that, the polls are now open, and you can vote A, approve, B, oppose, C, abstain, for postponing indefinitely the discussion on the employment eligibility reform. With 13 opposed, with 13 in favor, 2 opposed, and 3 abstaining, the motion to postpone indefinitely passes. And with that, we'll be moving on to the next item on the agenda.
Point of order. I discussed this with Max a bit earlier, but how would I motion to do like a quick vote to remove from the bylaws and good conduct standing? Because I agree that it makes no sense to have something in the bylaws that isn't in the Constitution. So like I want to add that motion to the agenda hopefully right now, and then we can like deal with it just fully, comprehensively, everything once we work out our actual wording.
So considering that it's 10:05, I am going to ask that we continue to move on, especially
I asked Max earlier, and like he said that if I ask now, I do it.
Okay,
and that's why I didn't push earlier.
All right, thank you, and we will add this. So this is a new motion being added, which is to remove the good conduct standing wording from the bylaws. Senator Ercolani. Oh, second, yeah, of course. All right, and so we are now discussing this matter. Yes, Senator Rebelski.
Motion to previous question.
Okay, I see a motion to previous question by Senator Rebelski. Do I see a second? Senator Vale. So with that, we are going to open up the polls, which are now open. So there's a motion to previous question. You can all vote now. You know what A, B, and C are? With 12 in favor, 3 opposed, and 3 abstaining, the motion to previous question passes, and we are now going to vote on the removal of the good conduct standing wording from the eligibility requirements in the bylaws. All right, the polls are now open. You can vote now on the removal of the good conduct standing wording from the bylaws of the SGA Constitution. With 13 in favor, 2 opposed, and 3 abstaining, the motion to remove the wording of good conduct standing from the bylaws passes. So thank you all, and with that we'll be moving on to the next item, which is a cabinet report from the President. Can we get a microphone to the President, please?
I have nothing to add. I'm happy to take questions or comments.
Any questions or comments for the President? All right, seeing none, we'll be moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is a cabinet report from the Assistant Treasurer. Assistant Treasurer Sheikh.
I have nothing to add. If anyone has any questions, let me know.
Are there any questions? All right, seeing none, we'll be moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is a cabinet report from the Administrative Coordinator.
Nothing to add.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to the next item, the cabinet report from the VPSA. VPSA EPS.
Let me find it real quick. Nothing to yeah, it's all good.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to the report from the VPAA.
Nothing to add.
Any questions? Yes, Senator
What's
Welsky.
GURJ?
Grinnell Undergraduate Research Journal.
Grinnell Undergraduate Research Journal. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to the cabinet report from the ACE co-chairs.
Sayla and I have nothing to add. Please hit us up if you want to host an event, though.
Any questions? All right, next we'll have the report from the Diversity and Outreach Coordinator. President White will be taking that.
I have nothing to add, but I'm happy to take any questions on behalf of Hannah. You can also reach her at her office hours or by emailing DOC.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to the report from the Services Coordinator.
Nothing to add.
Any questions? Seeing none, report from the Concerts Chair.
Couple things. Still really loud. Tomorrow night, concerts lineup release party at 8 p.m. Email Lounge, and that's outside the grill. Come get a nice, cute, like designer postcard concert. They're cute. You'll see. Second thing, there's a Tiny Dorm concert this weekend, Saturday night. I think 8 p.m. I encourage you to go if you're interested in seeing music this weekend, and if you have feedback about your experience there, if you enjoy it. If you have fun, I want you to tell me. Well, I want you to express it to any of the leaders, Joseph Nopke or what's up?
I've got some sensitive ears over here. Do you think you could like hold it a little further?
Oh God, I'm so sorry.
It's okay, Luke.
I'm new at this. Okay, so please express your thoughts or feelings about Tiny Dorm if you have them to any of the leaders. If you want me to connect you with them, let me know too. I'm happy to hear.
Point of information, where is that tiny concert?
Oh, Tiny Dorm, it's happening in Rathje 3rd.
Rathje 3rd.
4164, I think, but it'll probably be the only concert happening on that floor that night.
Good guess. Any further questions? All right, seeing none, we'll be moving on to the cabinet report from the Treasurer.
A couple things to add. First is, just in case y'all missed it earlier, senators are now getting paid for 6 hours a week at $8 an hour, not 4. So just like keep that in mind when you're logging your hours. At this point, everyone who has not been on E-Time before should be getting an email from Carrie Campbell soon to get set up. So if you don't get one of those emails by the next campus council, just bring it up, let us know. And we'll hit her up again. Additionally, if you have any questions about payment in general, again, you can email sgamoney@grinnell.edu or sga2, the digit 2, and just like we would love to help and talk. Secondly, I want to apologize if it sounded like I was blaming you all for not coming up with better ideas. I meant we hadn't come up with better ideas. And I forgot that there wasn't even one single campus council between now and then. Time flies, weeks pass. Yeah, cool. Thanks for all of your service.
Any questions? Okay, we have one more quick comment from Council Chair Josina.
Okay, so sorry, to clarify my earlier comment, I'm embarrassed because I'm actually playing in the concert on Saturday. I don't want you to come to tell me how my performance went. Like, that's okay, but I mostly want to know what students think about these events happening in dorms. Questions about accessibility, questions about enjoyment overall, safety. I want to know what you think about those other dynamics. Although there are lots of great performers there that night, that's what I'm more interested in. And also Rachel Eber and I think Victoria may be playing in that as well, and they both are great, so that's all.
Great. Are there any further questions about anything? All right. Seeing that, we are now going to move into the motion to... Oh, one more. Senator Arquani. Oh, can we get a microphone? Here's one right here. It's just far.
I don't want this to go any further than it has to, and I'm sorry that it's 10:12 and I'm bringing this up, but we have a constitutional obligation to confirm the time and place and sessions of Campus Council at this session of Campus Council. And I mean, I'm totally cool waiting until next week, but the Constitution says that we have to do this, so unless we want to suspend the Constitution.
Let's go ahead and add one more item to the to the agenda, which will be setting the location and date for 8 p.m. on Wednesday nights in the Harris Center. Do I see a second? Yeah, okay, Senator Romo. And then do Are there any questions, comments? Senator Ercolani?
Just to make a note that I will be bringing this up again because, as we had last semester as well, Wednesday at 8 doesn't work for a lot of people, including most theater and dance majors, and I don't think it's fair to exclude an entire major of people from serving in campus council, and that'll be at a later point.
Further comments? Senator Rubelski?
Motion to previous question.
Motion to previous question. Do I see a second? Yes, Senator Logan. So now we're all going to open up the polls, and you're all going to vote on the motion to previous question. Did any senators leave also? Who did we lose? Senator Frimpong. Okay. Did you vote on that remote? No? Can you just press C for abstain? Okay, then we're still looking for one more vote. If you could all make sure you vote, then we can get out of here nice and quick. If not, I'm going to cut this off in about 15 seconds and count it as an abstention. There it is. All right. So the motion to previous question passes 15-03, and we're going to reopen the polls now for voting to set our location and date to be 8 p.m. on Wednesday nights in the Harris Center. That is here at this time weekly. Voting is open. Thank you all for voting. Just looking for one more vote. All right, and with that, 17 approve and 1 abstention, so our meeting is set. And so with that, we're moving on to the adjourning motion. Do I see a second? Senator Logan. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. All those abstaining, say aye. Thank you all very much. We are adjourned. If you could all please return your clickers and your name tags over to where you received them, I would appreciate it. Thank you all for your patience tonight. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all next week.
Many hours ago now, but it's like less than a week. Do you organize things?
No, I don't. I guess, yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. Who does one?
Joseph Nopke, Paul Chan, and Sakitan something. I don't know his last name. It was Ronan Brooks and artist Kariskas and James Samat, but they don't run it anymore.
Okay.
At least they're like kind of grandfathering it down to some degree.
Who's just the art house interested in doing?
Oh, cool.
Also,
yeah,
how goes the search for these?
Oh.